Hello, good day and welcome to this session on two-stage tendering and the ancestral model law. By the end of this session, you should be able to define and explain two-stage tendering, as well as mention the advantages and disadvantages of two-stage tendering, and finally state the circumstances under which two-stage tendering can be used. The two-stage tendering, as the name implies, is any tendering procedure that involves basically two stages. So two-stage tendering is used when the procurement entity has little or no idea as to what they are requiring, or the technical specifications of the item that they require is quite complex, and hence they cannot accurately detail the characteristics of the item that they require. Hence, they have to undergo two stages that will enable them to first of all come up with the technical specifications, and then in the final stage determine the conditions and the terms on which the technical conditions or specifications will be met. So in the two-stage tendering, it is a procurement process in which a procurement entity invites tenderers in the initial stage to contribute to detailed specification of the goods. So as I said, it is used when it is not possible for the procurement entity to accurately specify the technical characteristics of the product or service or the works that they require. So after the first stage, which helps them to come up with the technical characteristics of the product, new detailed specifications are prepared and a restricted tender is issued in the second stage to all participants who were not rejected in the first stage. So two-stage tendering in the first stage invites tenders to help in coming up with the technical characteristics of the product. So in the first stage, all qualified and competent suppliers provide their tender documents, which is trying to provide solutions as to how the technical characteristics of the product should be formulated. Then, if the organization is able to come up with a technical specification for the product, the organization will then invite tenders from those who were successful in facilitating the technical specification process. The procurement entity will invite tenders from those successful suppliers to supply or to provide a second phase tender document, but in this case, they would add the financial aspect or the cost that they would charge for the final specification that the organization is able to come up with. So it is usually applicable when it is not feasible to formulate detailed specifications for goods or to identify their characteristics, or the character of the goods is subject to rapid technological advancement. Hence, you need committed and dedicated suppliers to be able to tell you as to the way forward in getting those goods or services. So it has certain advantages, some of which include it creates an early relationship between the purchaser and the tenderer, because in the end they are actively involved in determining how the requirements will be met. It increases the chances of getting the right specifications, since you consider other options and determine the one that's best suitable to meet the needs of the entity. And then major project risks are often identified early, and most of them are eliminated accordingly. So if you take a technologically advanced product or a product that is subject to rapid technological changes, and you are trying to formulate specifications as to how that requirement will be met, some of these risks or the risks that are associated with some of these products can be identified earlier on, so that the mitigation or management strategies can be established to manage them as and when they arise. And the purchaser or the buyer is more certain regarding the qualifications and capabilities of the selected tenderer, because the first stage helps you to determine their suitability and competence, and then leading to a final selection of the qualified or the best supplier among the rest. Disadvantages include the risk of price escalation. So, assuming the first stage, there might be certain things that the suppliers themselves might not have even considered in drafting the technical specification. But because you will engage them in the finalizing the specification and invite them subsequently for tender documents with the price, they are likely to escalate the prices, assuming that they consider or they calculate and realize they would have lost if the negotiation of the first stage was absent. They would escalate their prices. And it should be noted that it may provide the client with a temptation to go to the market with incomplete information, which will potentially result in unenforceable first stage tender. So, this disadvantage is to suppliers. So, for instance, in the first stage, if the supplier decides that if the buyer decides that they have gotten the technical specifications and hence they won't engage in a second stage, maybe some information would have been concealed by the suppliers. So if you decide to ignore their second stage process but go to the market to buy the items on your own based on what you have arrived at, it's likely that you are going to get low quality product in the end. And the second stage negotiations with the highest rank bidder could prove difficult and protracted. It could lead to abuse of negotiation position, which may lead to damaged relationship. And finally, it can lead to extended procurement lead time due to two-stage submission processes. So it's characterized by delays in the procurement proceedings. So generally, a two-stage tendering begins with a first stage where the procuring entity determines how suppliers are able to respond appropriately to the terms of their invitation document, and it's used to clarify and reach agreement on a finalized technical specification. So in the first stage, suppliers submit tenders with technical details of what the buyer requires, and they do not state the price or they do not state financial obligations. They do not state the price of what they are providing to the buyer. They only state the technical characteristics that the product is expected to possess. The second stage is characterized by inviting tenders from those who were first invited or those who were first engaged. You invite tenders from them, and then the tenders that you invite from those first stage suppliers is accompanied with a finalized technical specification. And it should be noted that in addition to the technical specification, you invite financial proposals. So, in contrast to the first stage where you only invite technical proposals, the second stage is characterized by sending out technical proposals against which you expect suppliers to submit their financial proposals. And then if you reach agreement, the technical specifications or the terms of reference are finalized and the highest ranked firm is invited to submit a financial proposal based on the agreed technical solution and then to contract negotiations. So under the ancestral model law, two-stage tendering involves public advertisement of the contract without exceptions to whoever or without restrictions to who can or cannot partake. The public advertisement is made on condition that you can help in formulating the technical specification. Then secondly, submission of tenders without a price. This is in the first stage. And then followed by discussions on tenders, which mostly involves justifications for the proposed technical specification. So if you submit technical specifications in the first page, you have to justify why you have stated those technical specification, and this is usually in a discussion or a negotiation process. Then the buyer goes ahead in conjunction with suppliers to prepare single specifications after considering the most technically qualified submission. Then you finally submit revised tender documents, or you invite suppliers to submit revised tender documents in accordance with the usual rules on open tendering. Why is two-stage tendering used? It is used when you are not able to formulate detailed specifications. It's also used for the purpose of research, experiment, or study or development. Then it's used for contracts which involve national defense or national security. And two-stage tendering is also used when open tendering procedures have been conducted earlier on but have failed. In this session, you have learned about two-stage tendering, the advantages and disadvantages of two-stage tendering, and then the circumstances under which two-stage tendering can be used.